Hello, and welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends, brought to you by the Publicity Works Agency, devoted to promoting musicians and authors worldwide. Call us today at 941-877-1552 to start your free publicity evaluation. Remember, we shine only when we make you shine. Please welcome the host of Interviewing the Legends, music journalist, author, and entrepreneur, Ray Shasho.
Hello once again, everyone. I'm your host, Ray Shasho. Welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends on BBS Radio and TV. It's brought to you by the Rockstar Chronicles, Series 1, my new book, featuring over 45 intimate conversations with the greatest music legends the world will ever know. It's now available on BigBookBaby.com and Amazon.com. Well, six-time Grammy nominee Maria Muldaur, who's been dubbed the First Lady of Roots Music for previous albums, touching on her wide-ranging influences from blues, country, folk, jazz, and even jug band music, continues her exploration of the great American roots music songbook. On her latest excursion, this time into the vintage jazz and blues sounds of the 1920s and 30s, Maria teams up with acclaimed New Orleans street band Tuba Skinny for Let's Get Happy Together, which is releasing on May 7th on Stony Plain Records. Maria Muldaur is best known worldwide for her 1974 mega hit Midnight at the Oasis, which received several Grammy nominations and enshrined her forever in the hearts of baby boomers everywhere. But despite her considerable pop music success, her 55-plus year career could be best described as long and adventurous odyssey through the various forms of American roots music. During the folk revival of the early 60s, she began exploring and singing early blues, bluegrass, and Appalachian old-timey music, beginning her recording career in 1963 with the Even Dozen Jug Band, and shortly after, they're joining the very popular Jim Kweskin Jug Band, touring and recording with them throughout the 60s. Please welcome American folk and blues singer Maria Muldaur to Interviewing the Legends. Hello, Maria.
Hey there, how are you?
I'm doing great. The last time we chatted, you turned me on to Memphis Minnie on the first Memphis Minnie album, and I loved it, man. I didn't know anything about Memphis Minnie until you showed me.
Well, that's part of the reason I do these projects. You know, they're all labors of love, but I have so many musical heroes that, you know, came from a bygone era that, and they made such a big contribution to our general cultural heritage that I feel they shouldn't just fade into the mist of the past or end up on a dusty shelf in the Smithsonian someplace. So that's what I try to do, is kind of breathe new life into their music and turn people onto them. So I'm glad you were one of them.
Well, I'm glad you're doing it, man, because, you know, the kids today, they have everything at their disposal as far as looking up, you know, great music and history and things like that, but they don't seem to be using it like they should, you know? I wish I had all these devices when I was a kid.
Oh, my goodness. Back in, I remember in 1963, Victoria Spivey, who is one of the contemporaries of Bessie Smith, had suggested to my friends who had formed something called the Even Dozen Jug Band that they get me to join the band. Mm-hmm. And she took me under her wing and played me, took me up to her apartment and was playing old blues that she thought might be well suited to my young little voice. And one of the songs she played was a Memphis Minnie tune called Tricks Ain't Walking, and I was just, it was so haunting. I fell in love with it, and I searched for years and years looking for another song by Memphis Minnie. It wasn't till Hulu came out with a compilation in like 1970, I think. And so that's what it was like to try. You would have to go to 100 used record stores and go through somebody's grandfather's basement record collection. And now, if you just type in Memphis Minnie and click the mouse, all 200 plus of her songs can come flooding into your computer in a minute. So I think that's a wonderful thing, and I do think some kids are paying attention to that. And Tuba Skinny, this band I recorded with, is definitely some of the young people that are exploring the wonderful music of the past and learning to play it and keep it alive and bring it, breathe new life into it.
Yeah, I guess we're lucky. The person that actually uploaded that into YouTube, we're very lucky for them too to find that music, and because the quality is not bad at all, on a lot of those old performances,
Yeah, they didn't have a lot of all this digital equipment,
right.
But they had natural talent and good engineers, and bands knew how to mix themselves.
Yeah.
And everybody was recorded live, and so you're right. If you have a couple of good speakers, you can bring that sound right into your living room in a really cool way.
Several years ago, I think it was in '03 or something like that, you did a performance at Carnegie Hall in tribute to Peggy Lee. That was really cool. I love Peggy Lee.
Oh, she was definitely one of my influences. She had such a cool, kind of minimalist, almost Zen way of singing. She was ultra hip.
Very hip.
Very sexy in a very subtle way, and big influence on me. And after she passed, I was amazed at how little mention there was of her, considering she had made 80 albums over her lifetime.
Exactly.
And so I decided to do a tribute to her, and because of that, I was invited to this big tribute that included many, many artists at Carnegie Hall. That was a memorable moment for me, I must say.
Yeah, Peggy was very sexy, kind of like a Maria Muldaur.
Oh, you're too kind. Well, I have a whole different kind of persona. I'm not nearly as cool and laid back as she is because I'm of Italian descent, so it's a little more out front and fiery, but same message underneath it all. Let's just say that.
Yeah, but Midnight at the Oasis conceived a lot of babies. I hear.
That's what I couldn't believe it, but over the years when I tour and I meet people after the show at the CD table or whatever, I have been told so many stories, some of them X-rated, about what people were doing or were inspired to do by that song. And another song that I recorded at that time by another wonderful blues singer that deserves more recognition, Blue Barker, was a song called Don't You Feel My Leg.
Yeah.
And I have actually been shown, you must have read this somewhere in my bio or something, I've been shown photos of babies that people say were conceived to my music. I mean, what do you say to that? But glad I could be of help.
Well, you were one of the hot mamas back in the 70s, that was for sure. You and Linda and a bunch of other ones, but you were...
Bonnie.
Yeah, you and also Bonnie Raitt. Yeah, Bonnie Raitt.
Bonnie and I are close, and we all live in the San Francisco Bay Area,
right.
So actually we three get together quite often.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be in a conference call with Linda Ronstadt, Emmylou Harris, and Dolly Parton, and they were so funny.
Wow.
What a bunch of characters.
That was a fun project.
Have you seen Linda in a while? Have you talked to her in a while?
Yes, that's what I just said. I go visit her, at least several times a year.
Right.
And stay in touch. She's a very dear friend. I've known her since 1966.
How's she doing? I know I've seen a couple of things where she still sings, and she's singing, the Mexican type, and she's fantastic at it. I wish she had come out earlier doing her roots, her Mexican, because I actually saw her sing in one of her concerts. She did like a Mexican type concert, and she was incredible doing that.
Oh, absolutely. But she, she had Parkinson's for the last several years, so her singing days sadly are over, but she's extremely intelligent and well-educated person, all self-educated. She just is so knowledgeable about so many things and stays totally current with everything that's going on, and it's just always a pleasure to get together with her.
I want to mention you have a special live stream concert coming up on Thursday, April 29th. It's at the Drew Drop In New Orleans, and talk about that. What's are you going to be playing your new album?
Well, here's what's going on. I put out an album. I fell in love with this band I heard playing in a store a few years ago.
Right.
Called Tuba Skinny. I had no idea who they were. I thought we were listening to a radio show that was playing old vintage jazz, and the woman in the store informed me it wasn't the radio. It was a young street band from New Orleans called Tuba Skinny, and I didn't believe her. She had to show me the CD because, I've studied the, vintage jazz and blues of the 20s and 30s all my life. I was in a couple of jug bands, and I've, pretty much I'm combing through the archives of our musical heritage and spend a lot of time in that era. And I was sure I was listening to an old 78, but sure enough, it was a young band of street musicians, and I fell in love with them. I asked her she knew some of them, and she was able to get a hold of some of their albums for me, which immediately went into heavy rotation in my life and remained there. I have at least 10 of their albums. But they are a wonderful band of young musicians who I immediately recognized from hearing them play that they're not just playing this music, they're kind of channeling the whole vibe and aura of a bygone era, and an era that was more relaxed and more kind of, I don't know, for lack of a better word, organic. Mm-hmm. And they obviously have great reverence for the music and are using the tools of the internet we were talking about to dig around and find some of the great old music of the early jazz bands and blues bands, and they play it with kind of in a very egoless way. Nobody's standing out front going, ta-da, now I'm taking a fancy solo. They just all interweave. Their melodies are just interwoven together. They play with a kind of very relaxed synchronicity that just instantly makes you feel happy. I mean, I wondered why I was so crazy about this particular band, having heard many other, bands play this kind of music, and that's the conclusion I came to, was they play it in a very pure and a way that just kind of just puts out a big dose of joy. So I happened to I was invited a year ago, January, to New Orleans to do a showcase at the International Folk Alliance, and I thought, what are they, I'm here in California, I can't drag my whole band back there, and I was going to just pass on the invitation, and then I thought, ooh, maybe I could ask Tuba Skinny to do it with me. So I contacted them, and they said they would. We had one quick rehearsal, and went out there and did a 45-minute set, and it was so natural. I just felt so at home playing with them, because obviously, even though we're several generations apart, we spent a lot of time drinking out of the same musical fountain, is how I like to put it. So it was like, I just felt like I'd been playing with them all my life. It was a natural fit, and after the show, everybody came up and said how much they liked it, and people said, this is a marriage made in heaven.
Yeah,
You guys
I agree.
sound great together. Nobody could believe we'd never performed together before. Anyway, long story short, a gentleman named Holger Peterson, who used to own a little roots label in Canada called Stony Plain, was down there at that Folk Alliance and heard the performance, and took me out to lunch the next day and told me how much he liked it. He said, "What would you think about doing an album with them?" I said, "Oh my God, I'd love to. That would be a dream come true." So he he told the new owner of the label about it and convinced him to take a chance and put an album together. So that's what I did. I recorded it last fall in New Orleans. We had 2 rehearsals and 3 days of recording, and what you hear is what we did, and it was all a very natural process and a lot of fun. And the name of the album is Let's Get Happy Together. As I was sitting with Holder thinking about it, after he brought up the idea, I said, "Yeah, that would be great." And he started looking in his phone for material. He said, "Maybe you should do it." And he looked up Lil Hardin Armstrong, who was Louis Armstrong's first wife.
Right.
And there it was. The first song we found, it was called Let's Get Happy Together. And we played it on his phone, and it was such a cool little, happy little song. I said, "That's great, and that would be a great title for the album." Little did we know that about a month later, the whole world would be shrouded in the gloom of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so it just seems, very kind of serendipitous that this music, which is all very happy, that it's coming out May 7th, which is just as we're all coming out of hibernation and lockdown and, starting to feel hope. And so I think it's a perfect motto for the moment we're in. Let's get happy together.
Sure. The Brits brought back the blues, reintroduced the blues back to America, and you're reintroducing the 20s, the roaring 20s back into America, with this album, which is really cool. Your voice is incredible, Maria. It like you said, it's a marriage made in heaven because it sounds perfect with the band. It sounds like you were reincarnated from the 20s.
I sometimes think I must have been. I think, because that's where I live musically and spiritually.
Yeah.
That era of music. Whether it's old blues or jug band music or early jazz, that's where I live musically and spiritually, and really the two things are very close. The musical realm and the spiritual realm, there's really a very thin veil between them. So I feel like these kids, and a lot of them came out of punk backgrounds. This wasn't the first music they played,
Right.
I found out.
Huh, really? I didn't know that.
But a lot of them were in punk bands and different things like that. But they all came together in New Orleans and started playing. And Shay Cohen is this darling, beautiful little gal. I think she's in her mid-30s, and she's kind of the band leader, and she plays cornet. And she plays it so well and so beautifully. I mean, trumpet can sound harsh sometimes and a little abrasive, but she plays it so melodiously and has a great tone. And she just with a little nod of her hand or a little wave of her trumpet, she leads the whole band, and so everybody knows when to take a solo. And I said, "How did you end up being the leader?" And she said, "Well, somebody has to direct the traffic." But they all play it's so beautifully together. It's not that anyone's like such an astounding virtuoso, but they play what's even better than being a virtuoso to me is playing what's suitable for the song.
Right. What's
relevant to that song in that moment with the other people you're playing with. Music isn't a solitary act. Real music requires listening to everyone else at the same time that you're playing, and
Sure.
just being a part of the conversation and knowing when to come in and when to come out, and when to say something and when to shut up. And
I agree.
It's I guess it's called harmoniousness, and that's missing in a lot of today's music and in a lot of today's daily social interaction. So I think the quality of that they're emanating is what's so attractive to people. And they have fans all over the world. I go on their YouTube. I go to YouTube a lot to see. They put out stuff all the time, and the little comments of appreciation are in like dozens of different languages. So it just shows how relevant and moving this music still is to people, even though it's what are we in 2021? 100 years after this music was first
amazing
created.
You brought back some other secret weapons from the past. One, I didn't realize how great of a singer Dorothy Lamour was. And you did I Go For That, which was one of my favorite tunes, and you sing that beautifully.
Thank you. Well, the original concept, excuse me, I had to have a sip before.
That's okay.
Cut that out. The original concept, when Holger and I very first started talking about it, we thought, well, what theme could it have? Well, maybe we could pay tribute to women artists from musical artists from New Orleans.
Sure.
And I had recently found out, we later expanded it to include other things, and but unbeknownst to me, and probably to most everyone, Dorothy Lamour was born and raised in New Orleans, and before she became an exotic, sultry Hollywood star in a sarong and was in all those movies, she was married to a big band leader and sang and recorded with them quite a bit. And so I definitely wanted to include at least one of her tunes, and found this great one called I Go For That. It's just, the music of those days was so much more lighthearted, and the lyrics were just really, kind of droll and hip, like it has lines like, you play the uke, you're from Dubuque, I go for that, or, and it's just kind of tongue-in-cheek and lighthearted, and the melodies are a little more subtle and, finely wrought than a lot of today's music. So I find it endlessly fascinating and, of course, fun to play and sing.
You brought back Annette Hernshaw, who recorded, over 250 sides, and she was actually very, very popular back in the 30s. Very popular, but, a lot of people today may not know.
A big radio star, beautiful gal, and had she was white, but she had a very soulful voice, very evocative voice, and I had recorded a couple of her tunes before years ago. I did one called Cooking Breakfast for the One I Love. If you ask most people today do they ever hear of Annette Henshaw, that nobody would
exactly
would know. Like more people have heard of Fanny Bryce, who also recorded in that time period. But it's just endless how many great and talented people there were, and there's no reason why they should just fade into the past. If we can, it only enriches our culture now if we keep bringing those things forward and sharing them with others.
Yeah, I hope great music like this comes back, and I thank you for that, because we've gotten so stagnant, in the mainstream nowadays. It's more or less about dancing and doing. You don't have those virtuoso musicians like we used to have. You really don't.
Well, let's make one thing clear. The music I did with Tuba Skinny is definitely about dancing. I mean, like you say, the Roaring '20s. People were dancing like crazy. And now some great videos of that stuff is just coming out, but it was a different kind of dance music. But Tuba Skinny, they play a lot in the street, and people just start dancing. They're just busking in the street, and people just start dancing in the street. And they play clubs too, and the clubs are packed with swing dancers when they play, but they're not. I don't want to give the impression that they're just a street band, because they also play a lot of different venues around New Orleans, right, and have been discovered by the jazz fans over in Europe. Now, over in Europe, there's way more of an appreciation,
sure, I agree,
of early American jazz. There always has been, even in the original days of jazz, when they would have people like Josephine Baker and all the black jazz musicians would often end up living in Paris or somewhere in Europe because they were so much more widely accepted there. So they've headlined quite a few jazz festivals over in Europe, and if you look online and look at their videos, they have lots and lots of followers. So I think they're already doing a lot to revive its interest in this kind of music. I've been doing it in my own little way all along.
Sure.
But I'm very encouraged to know. It meant the world to me to find out that there was a band of young people that were discovering and caring so carefully for this music.
Well, you brought back the Goofus 5, which a lot of people probably never heard of nowadays.
I never heard of them either. This is another fun thing about who fancy myself a lifelong student and aficionado of this kind of music, had never, except for 2 songs on the album. One is Delta Bound, which was originally done by Duke Ellington. Ivy Anderson sang it with Duke Ellington and his orchestra. And I had always loved that song and wanted to do it. I just needed to find the right band to sing it with, and now I have.
Forget about stormy weather. You lost your baby and I lost mine. I got a nickel and you got a dime. We'll drown our troubles in wine and we'll get happy together. Why should we worry just because they turned us down? We'll show everybody that we're nobody's clown. Now you can dance and I can sing. I got the finger and you got the ring. We'll get the parson to fix this thing and we'll be happy together.
I'd heard before was Got the South in My Soul, which was originally done by the Boswell sisters, who were very, very popular back in the day, and the forerunner of the Andrews Sisters. Many more people know about the Andrews Sisters, but the Boswell sisters were incredible and recorded with all the best jazz players of the day. So I had heard of those 2 songs, but other than that, this was a really interesting adventure for me to dig into the depths and corners of the internet and everywhere in between and find 12 good songs that would be the most appropriate for me to do with Tuba Skinny, and came across this Goofus 5, never heard of them. It's like an ongoing, never-ending exploration, and the more you dig in and the more you explore, the more interesting stuff you find. It's fascinating. Anyway, I heard this song, I Like You Best of All, and it just made me so happy, and I thought it would be the perfect vehicle for Tuba Skinny. So there you go. Then there was another one called Swing You Sinners by a lady trumpet player named Valida Snow.
Right.
Never heard of her. And now I'm a big fan. She played trumpet. Louis Armstrong called her the second best trumpet player in the world.
Wow.
And she was gorgeous and shapely and played trumpet and sang really well and was a great entertainer. Very, very popular back in the day. And, you know, who knows about her now? Well, I hope enough people hear this record that my whole point with making these records is to just shine a light on some of the wonderful musical pioneers that have gone before and just encourage people to start digging for themselves and discover the unlimited treasures that await them.
Maria, I hope you keep doing this because you teach me a lot.
Well, you know, as long as I have the energy to do it, I'll keep doing it. I certainly enjoy it, and I'm so looking forward to this. I'm going to go to New Orleans in a couple of weeks and have a couple of rehearsals with Tuba Skinny, and we're going to do a live stream at the Dewdrop Social Hall, and what is it called? It's I think it's called the Dewdrop Social Hall.
Right.
And I never heard something else I just recently discovered. It was built in 1895 in Mandeville, which is across Lake Pontchartrain from New Orleans. And it was built by the black community in 1895 because they wanted to have their own social, you know, their own community center and a venue to hear music. And all the great, I found out that all the great original jazz artists played there. Kid Ory, Louis Armstrong, Buddy Bolden. I mean, these are legendary names. So the wall, it's a funky old place, and the local historical society has kind of refurbished it. You know, they have a bunch of volunteers, and they kind of refurbished it so that it's a venue for music now. And I know the walls are just dripping and vibrating with musical history. So I'm really excited. I think it's perfect that I'm going to be doing this music with Tuba Skinny in that place. I think that'll be perfect. And I hope people will tune in from all over the world because I think it'll be a real special show.
Are you going to record that?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's being live streamed and recorded.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good. You know, a video would be cool too. You know?
Well, that's what it's going to be.
Oh, it's going to be recorded video. Good. Awesome. Yeah. Fantastic. Maria,
audio and video.
I want to tell you what my favorite song is on the album, okay?
Okay.
And it's by Soul Sister Muldaur. It's Road of Stone. And I could swear you were a very talented black artist. I mean, you were so soulful in that song. Oh my goodness!
Thank you for saying that. I mean, I in my travels through the cobwebs of time, I came across that song, and it was originally done by Sweet Pea Spivey, who was the sister of Victoria Spivey, who mentored me originally. originally when I was in the Even Dozen Jug Band. I mentioned her earlier. And I thought, oh, I got to check this out. And I fell in love with the song. It's such a soulful story.
It is.
You know, all these things that have a kind of a universal theme, and this is about loneliness and struggle and trying to have, you know, survive all by yourself. And I was really affected by that song, and I thought twice about, I thought, well, the title of the album is Let's Get Happy Together, and most of the songs are totally lighthearted and goofy and fun, but that's the other side of my, you know, musically what I like to do. That's a real expressive blues. I'm so glad you like it.
It is so original. So the way you sing it, I mean, it almost didn't sound like you. You know, it does sound to me like a very talented black artist. You know,
well, that's a big compliment to me, being that this music is all originally theirs. But you know, the thing is, like I said, it's universal. It doesn't matter what color anybody is.
Right.
Everyone's felt those emotions.
Sure.
And the reason these songs are still doable, appealing today, and relevant, and why, you know, for instance, you liked it so much, is because they express universal emotions and issues that everybody struggles with, young, old, black, white, then, now, you know, and it's just a real raw, natural expression of the human spirit. So I'm so glad you like that. I hope you're going to play some of these on your show.
Yeah, I'm going to probably play that one for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, play the Goofus 5 one.
Right.
I Like You Best of All. And,
Okay.
You know, there's a lot, you know, because we could blah, blah, blah all day, but there ain't nothing like a musical demonstration to really let folks know what we're talking about.
I agree 100%. I want to say congratulations, too. You received the Trailblazer Award at the Americana Music Honors and Awards 2019. I did want to say congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. I was very honored to be in Nashville and receive that.
You deserve that.
You know, when I got the award, and I said, oh, God, now I have to give a little speech. But I didn't know what I was going to say, but basically I got up and said, well, thank you for this Trailblazers Award, but really I don't feel like a trailblazer. I feel like a trail follower, because, and then I named all the people, some of whom we've been talking about, that really were the pioneers and trailblazers, like Memphis Minnie and, you know, Doc Watson and Blue Barker and all the people that I've been following. So I was very honored to be recognized in that way, and it was really a fun 3-day party in Nashville. So it was a lot of fun for me.
I want to mention some things, a little trivia that some people may not know about your family. First of all, your sister-in-law is Diana Muldaur. And, you know, she's an actress, was in many, many, many different shows. And, of course, your daughter, right, Jenny Muldaur, is also an actress as well. A lot of people probably...
She's not an actress, she's a singer.
Oh, she's a singer. What didn't she perform, though, in some shows as well, or no?
Not that I have done some acting kind of in some... I was in Pirates of Penzance and another musical called Pump Boys and Dinettes.
Yeah,
and,
I remember that.
I was in Teatro Zinzani, which was a very interesting show that was done here on the West Coast. But no, Jenny Muldaur, her dad is a fabulous singer as well. His name is Jeffrey Muldaur. He and I were in the Jim Kweskin Jug Band together for many years, and then ended up making 2 duo albums when we left that band in Boston and moved to Woodstock, New York. So Jenny's got it in her blood from both sides, and although we tried to steer her in a more sane career direction, there was no use because it was in her blood, and she sung with people. I call her the harmony singer to the stars. She sung with Lou Reed. She toured all over the world with him. She sung with David Byrne, Todd Rundgren.
Cool.
She fulfilled one of my teenage dreams to be a doo-wop singer in a girl group. She sang with Ronnie Spector. She became a Ronette and did that for several years. So, but she's also made a couple of solo albums, and right now she's working with another offspring of a famous musician, Richard Thompson's son, Teddy Thompson, a beautiful singer, and they're doing an album of country duets. They sing beautifully together. She's been sending me the mixes as they record them, and it just sounds fabulous. So that's what she's all about. I don't think she's been in any theatrical productions, though.
We'll make sure we plug her music and her website and everything as well.
Cool.
Yeah, especially when she's got a new album coming out.
I like pie, I like cake, anything that they bake. And I like crackers too, broken up in a stew. When I see jelly roll, I lose all my control. But of all those things, I like you best of all.
You were also in Horn from the Heart, the Paul Butterfield story, which was released 2017. That's interesting. I'd love to see that.
That is a great documentary. And I suggest that if we ever get to go to movie theaters again, that you see it in a movie theater, or if you stream it or get it on Netflix or whatever in your house, you have it, play it on something with really good speakers and turn it up loud, because that is, Paul Butterfield was a dear friend and a very, very influential musician of that time, and it's a beautifully done, very loving portrait and tribute to him and his music, but they invited me to go see it when it showed here, and I was just riveted by, as I was when I very first heard Paul Butterfield. I couldn't believe how vibrant and vital and electrifying his music was, when I first heard it, and then when I heard it in the theater, it was like all over again. I realized, wow, he really was a monster and ahead of his time.
I agree.
So I definitely think you and your listeners should get a hold of that album. It's a very well done portrait of a very soulful musician.
I love bios about musicians. I could, who I'm getting into a lot now is Elmore James. I mean, I am stunned by his slide playing. I mean, he's definitely he's got to be the godfather of the slide. He was incredible.
Oh yeah. It Hurts Me Too. Always been one of my favorite tunes.
He's incredible. I just want to mention real quick a little bit about Midnight at the Oasis. Now, it was written by, is it David Nichtern, I guess?
David Nichtern.
Nichtern, okay. How was that song selected? Was it selected for you, or you liked the song, you heard it, and then you decided to record it?
No, here's the story. So I got the chance, I got invited by the president of Warner Brothers to come to LA and record my first solo album after Jeff and I broke up both as a couple and as a musical partner. So I go out to New Orleans. I've got New Orleans on the brain. I go out to LA and I'm still, pretty shook up over the breakup of the marriage, and I'm there with my young daughter, and they put us up in a little bungalow in Laurel Canyon, and I start making the album and calling on, everybody I asked for, I got. Dr. John, Ry Cooder, David Lindley, you name it. Any musical guy I liked, they got them for me, any musician. Well, this guy, David Nichtern, was a young songwriter and guitar player that I knew a little bit from New York. And there was a song he had written called I Never Did Sing You a Love Song, a beautiful little country waltz. And I was planning to do that on the album. I don't write it all, so I have to find good songs and good songwriters. So that was one of the songs I had chosen. And he was very excited to know that I was going to record it. And he drove out to California in the dead of winter on his own dime in his little VW Bug, just hoping he'd be able to, maybe they'd let him play rhythm guitar when I cut his song, which they did. So, but then he stuck around and he really wanted to see what was going on with the whole recording process. And he was very encouraging to me. He kept, I felt totally overwhelmed and in over my head to be in the studio with all these heavy weights, and I didn't know what I was doing at all. And he would just be like an encouraging little brother. So one day, the producer, Lenny Warnaker, comes into the studio and he says, I've been listening to the rough cuts and the rough tracks. He said, and I think we're in good shape. We have some ballads and we have some up-tempo songs. I think if we had one more medium-tempo song, I think the album would be very well-rounded. So he said, can you think of any? And I looked at David was standing there, and I thought of this goofy song he had written about a year ago that I wasn't particularly crazy about. But I thought, what about, somehow the song Midnight at the Oasis came up, and I said, what about that? Is that medium tempo? He said, yeah. And the producer said, we'll play a little of it. So David whips out his guitar, and I sing it, the little bit of it I knew. And the producer said, that's cute. I mean, he wasn't wild about it, but I did that as a gesture of gratitude to David because he had been so encouraging to me when I was out there having such a difficult time. So that very afternoon, we called Freebo, the bass player, into the studio, Jim Gordon on drums, and Amos Garrett on guitar. David played the rhythm part, and we recorded it that very afternoon as a total afterthought, just to fill out the album. And you know what? God rewarded me for that gesture of gratitude towards David, because, of course, the rest is history. Nobody could have dreamed that a goofy song about a camel would capture the hearts of people, not just in the States, but all over the world. So it's still a bit of a mystery to me, but, people say, do you ever get sick of playing Midnight at the, singing Midnight at the Oasis, and I say, are you kidding? I get on my knees every night and thank God that for some odd reason everybody loved that song so much and still do to this day.
Well, a reviewer from AllMusic, this is what he said, it was so sensual and evocative that it was probably one of the most replayed records of the era and may be responsible for the most pregnancies from a record during the mid-'70s. And I believe that.
It was one of the most replayed. Read that again.
It was probably one of the most replayed records responsible for pregnancies from the mid-'70s.
Oh. Well, that's, like I was saying, that's what apparently people were inspired to do.
So you're up there with Marvin Gaye and Let's Get It On and all those songs.
Wow, that's good company. I loved him.
You know, Maria, the song was great. You sing it so sensual, but you had a lot to do with it was your looks back then, too. Come on. The way you dressed.
Well, I was a natural little organic hippie mama. I didn't like when I went on TV. I didn't even want them to put lipstick on me.
Really?
It's like a whole different. That's how I dressed. I wore a little halter top and bell bottom. Hip hugger bell bottoms. That was the look of the day, and I didn't do much to glamorize myself because my headspace was never about that. But hey, when you're young, everybody looks good.
Well, the way you shook the tambourine helped a lot too.
Well, I say that's the Sicilian national instrument.
There you go.
And I'm Sicilian, so
yep.
I had a natural affinity for it.
I just found out, I did one of those searches for, your DNA, and I found out I was 50%, I was actually 45 or 50% Italian, and I didn't know that.
Well, that's a wonder, and you didn't know?
I didn't know, no. Because my family, my father's side was from Syria, and my mother's
I wondered about that last name.
My mother's Cuban, and they came from Spain. But come to find out, the Syrians came from Italy to Syria. I didn't know that.
Well,
yeah.
Right before I spoke to you, I spoke to a guy that was interviewing me from Greece. Right. And at the end of our conversation, he said something that's sort of a famous Italian saying, una faccia, una razza. That means one face, one race. And that refers to the fact that people from all over the Mediterranean recognize each other as being essentially from the same tribe.
I agree.
So who knows? We might be related. You never know.
We could be. Maria, here's your final question, and I ask this question to everybody, and maybe I might even ask you the first time we talked. If you had a Field of Dreams wish, like the movie, to perform, collaborate with anyone from the past or present, who would that be?
I'm thinking.
That's a tough one for you.
That I haven't performed with yet?
No, it could be somebody you performed with.
Well, I have been blessed to perform with many, many people that were musical idols and heroes of mine. I mean, James Booker, Dr. John, Ray Brown, Benny Carter, all those big bands, all stars. But I always wanted to sing with Al Green.
Really?
And I found out he was a fan of my music as well, and we were planning to do something together. This is several albums ago, and at the time we were going to record, he got invited to sing at the White House. So much for that. That preempted our recording together. But so that's someone that I always wanted to record with that I didn't. But I guess I would like to say that I would have loved to sing with the Duke Ellington Orchestra.
Right. Oh yeah. I would love to hear you have an R&B album with guys like, Al Green, Marvin Gaye, maybe some Temptations and things like that. You would be so good at that.
Well, who knows where my musical attentions will turn. I did put out an album in 2012 called Steady Love that I cut in New Orleans. Would be the most would be closest to what you're talking about. Of course, Marvin Gaye nor Al Green were on it, but the vibe was there.
Well, don't stop pursuing Al Green, because that would be a perfect match in heaven. That would be awesome. You and Al Green together? Oh, my God.
Well, every time I'm in Memphis, I go for the Blues Awards every year.
Right.
Every time I'm there, I always end up going to his church on Sunday, and actually he's invited me up to sing a couple of times. They're just like a gospel song with the choir, so that's been fun.
That would be awesome. I interviewed Dr. John. I loved him, man. He loves Cuban music. He loves Cuban music and salsa and all that too. He's like you. He likes everything, And,
oh yeah.
Yeah. And the only issue I had was it was very hard to understand him on the phone because of that New Orleans drawl.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a unique way of speaking, and he kind of had made his own very colorful vocabulary too.
Yeah.
But I've known him so long, I kind of was used to it, but we all miss him something.
Oh, yeah. He was so cool. I loved his music. Maria, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for letting your listeners know about my new album. It's not out yet, but I'm hoping everyone likes it as much as I do and as much as you do, because I think it's a good dose of good medicine that we all need right about now.
Well, I'm giving it 5 stars. I mean, there's nothing like that. Nothing like that out today. It brings back so many great memories from an incredible era. The 1920s. I mean, that's you think we're risque now? Go back to the 1920s.
Exactly. People. Yeah, you made a good point. People think, we're so modern and so risque and so hip and so outrageous, but they were doing it all back then.
That's right.
Singing about it too.
They got away with it too. They were something. Yeah, they were really something back in the day. But the best of luck. Best of luck with the new album.
Thanks for having me on your show.
Sure.
And maybe I'll actually see you in person one of these days.
That'll be awesome.
Get back to live performing.
I know you used to play in Tampa. I think it's Skippers. You were at Skippers. Yeah. Last time we chatted. So maybe you'll come back to Tampa or Clearwater in that area.
Where you live?
Yeah, I live about 35 minutes from Tampa and Clearwater south in Sarasota.
Okay, towards Sarasota.
Right.
Well, you never know. I'd like to. I want to keep touring as long as I can once it's safe again.
I'd love to see you. I'd love to see you live.
Okay, well, in the meantime, I hope my music keeps you company, and I send love to you and all your listeners.
My best to you, too, and my love to you, too, Maria. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
You can pre-order Maria Muldaur's with Tuba Skinny, Let's Get Happy at www.stonyplainrecords.com. And the official release date will be May 7th of this year on Stony Plain Records. And I'm sure it'll be on Amazon.com as well. But you can go ahead and pre-order that today. I gave it 5 stars. It's an incredible album. For more information about Maria Muldaur, please visit www.mariamuldaur.com, also www.tubaskinny.com, www.stonyplainrecords.com. And please, the Paul Butterfield story, an incredible story, Horn from the Heart, you can visit www.hornfromtheheart.com to check that out. Very special thanks to Karen Johnson at Mark Pucci Media for arranging this interview with Maria Muldaur. And, of course, the dynamic duo of Doug and Don Newsom of BBS Radio for making the magic happen for each and every broadcast of Interviewing the Legends. If you have comments or suggestions for the show, you can always contact me at interviewingthelegends@gmail.com. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Interviewing the Legends with Ray Shasho, for the very latest interviews. It's real news, people. And, of course, my new book, which is out, entitled The Rockstar Chronicles, Series 1. We're hoping to have 4. It chronicles truths, confessions, and wisdom from the music legends that set us all free. You can order yours today on the collector's edition hardcover or ebook, and at bookbaby.com and at amazon.com. It features over 45 intimate conversations with some of the greatest rock legends the world will ever know. We got a 5-star rating, book review by Literary Titan. Thank you for listening. We hope to see you next time. Peace, love, and stay safe. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to Interviewing the Legends, brought to you by the Publicity Works Agency. Call 941-877-1552 or visit us at publicityworksagency.com, specializing in author and music artist publicity plans. We shine when we make you shine. Tune in to Interviewing the Legends every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Time on BBS Radio, Station 1.